Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Senators Roundtable. I'm your host, Jacob Billington, and I'm joined as per usual with my lovely co hosts, Dayton Reimer and Paul Quinney. Nice to see you again, guys. I don't know, it feels like it's been a long week. There's not been much Senators action. I don't know, it feels like it's been forever since we've chatted some hockey. First of all, how you doing, Paul? You were just talking about the snow you're getting. You excited?
Not really. I'll just have to go out there and shovel the damn stuff. But what can you do? We're living in Canada, so you're gonna get it eventually.
Well, like I said, make sure you have good form when shoveling that because your beer league can't go without you.
Yeah, well, that's what I tell myself. But thanks for that vote of confidence, Jacob.
Dayton, how you doing out in Saskatchewan?
No snow. It has been pretty
Nope.
warm. Starting to dip into the negative temperatures this week, and that's probably where it's going to stay. But man, I feel you with that long week. Not only no Senators action, but just too much other stuff. It's been a time. So I am looking forward to talking some hockey. Need to
Yeah,
recharge here.
absolutely. And as everybody can see, I'm ready for the holiday season. I got my beautiful Christmas sweater. We won't call it ugly and kind of deface the logo here. Needs to be updated. As you can see, I got the 3D logo. But yeah, I'm ready for the holiday season. I'm ready for some Senators hockey. We're on a stretch of like what is it? I think 4 games in a 20-day span. Like that's just ridiculous. We'll get into that a bit more later. But first off, the only action we saw since our last episode was in Sweden. Senators swept both games. They won 5-4 in overtime against Detroit. We'll definitely talk about that game and the Stutzel goal. And then a snooze fest between the Senators and the Minnesota Wild, which had probably the worst overtime I've ever seen. It was terrible. So first question I'll ask you, just to make things more clear, is what do you make of the trip in general? Like, was it a successful trip, or is it still a lot of worries looming over? We'll start with you, Dayton.
I think the short answer is yes. This is successful for the Senators. That is what they needed. They needed those 4 points. That gives them a major boost. Sweden was always going to be a very big symbolic victory if they could pull it off. And they did. That's great. But there's also an aspect of how they won that is maybe a little worrisome. Um, the Red Wings game, I was checking the scores because I couldn't sit down and watch it that one. But yeah, like, oh, they're up 4. That's great. Oh no, they're tied.
Yeah.
Just a complete collapse. And thankfully they did pull it off in overtime. No, not overtime. Was it overtime?
Yes. Yes. That was the Stutzel game.
Right. I'm keep forgetting where the 2 seconds was.
Yeah.
Was it at the end of the game? I don't know. I'm like I said, it's been long. You can probably see in my camera. I look tired. I was trying to get the lighting right. It was not. This is the best I can do.
Yeah. You look lovely.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, Minnesota game, that was slow, that was slogging. They had to claw their way back. I think they started down a goal or two.
Yeah.
Yep.
One. It was 2-1 in the shootout, so they were down a goal for a little bit, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So yes, on the surface, great. They got the wins. That's what they needed.
Yeah.
But I think missing Shabbat is really hurting them, and some of the young guys just don't have the consistency game to game that is making them a playoff team.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I said, like just to kind of highlight what happened in the Detroit game, Ottawa was on fire in the first period. They were up 3-0 at the end of the first period. Everybody was looking great. And then the second period started and they get the fourth goal right away. And then I think it was 8 minutes and 37 seconds that Detroit scored 4. And it was ridiculous. And it was a barn burner. Um, there was so much stress after the second goal. You were like, this is not going to go well. Ottawa couldn't capitalize on the power play. It just wasn't a good opportunity. So they got it done. That's what matters the most. Paul, what are your thoughts before I kind of dive too deep into what I'm thinking?
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys. Hey, a success. I think, Jacob, you said last week that 3 points was a success and they walked out with 4. So, hey, they knocked it out of the ballpark. But like Dayton says, it was ugly. It's the way they won. I don't take any consolation from that. Certainly wouldn't if I were an Ottawa Sens fan. They won against Detroit because Stützle, I don't know, was he a baseball player over in Germany? I mean, he looked like he choked up on the bat and slammed
Baseball's
it.
pretty popular.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he's got talent, but he knocked it in the net, and only because James Reimer ducked. I don't know why, but that certainly helped him. But no, they quit playing in the second period, and for reasons that aren't clear to me, a whole bunch of people are going to blame DJ, I'm sure. But hey, that was a decision those guys made just to stop playing. I think, to be charitable, they probably thought they could sit on a lead. Yeah. They're not the kind of team that can sit on a lead. They've got to be offensively oriented at all times. And if they're not, bad things happen. Still a little concerned with their defense. Sloppy. Again, I'm on record as being not impressed with their defense, despite all the accolades that they've got, but they can't clear the zone. That's a consistent problem with those guys. Unbelievable sloppy play, passes to nowhere. You wouldn't see that in Bantam hockey. And then, they're chipping the puck up along the boards, but there's no support through the middle. So they get trapped time and time again. So, I'd be worried if I were DJ and Sens management about Detroit. And then, look, let's put Minnesota into some perspective here. They won in a shootout. So that could have gone either way. And Minnesota is a club, frankly, that they're the type of club that the Senators have got to beat, and they're not doing it. So I don't think they're out of the woods.
Yeah, no, I agree with that assessment. The only thing that I'm going to kind of throw out to both of you is that we talk about that there's no moral victories. Is there moral losses? Because they came out with 4 points. What else can you ask? Yes, they were ugly, but they still got the job done, right? So that's the only argument I'll make, and I don't even know where I sit on the fence. That's just kind of playing devil's advocate and kind of throw that question out there. Everybody, all three of us, everybody on Twitter, everybody on Facebook, everybody in the media, no moral victories. But does that go both ways? Like, are you just ready to accept these 4 points and just move on, or do you really need to look back and address the things that went wrong, like the sloppy second period? Of course, you need to address that. You can't have that happen every game. But when we look back at the games that they lose and we say no moral victories, well, you got to take those victories away if you're going to talk about these failures of a period or what it might be, right? That's just kind of my thoughts.
So moral losses, Jacob, you got to dumb that down for guys like me. What you're really saying is you won even though you stank.
Yeah, but you won. So,
okay,
like if we're gonna take that away, then what's wrong with saying you lost, but these 7 players had awesome games? You lost. So are we just looking at the wins and loss columns at this point? I think so. I think that's all that matters right now. That's kind of the side that I'm on. I'm not disagreeing with either of your guys' assessment at all. That's just kind of where I sit with things, and something I wanted to throw out there to both of you and everybody listening here.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that would concern me if I were a Sens fan is that the schedule has been really heavy on home games.
Yes.
And, they should have been, ideally, you'd want to make hay while the sun shines, and they haven't done that. So they're coming into a tough period of the schedule. So
yeah, and I think they play 15 games in November or December, which is going to be really tough on them. Obviously, you got Christmas in there. Some of them are going to be taking not a break, obviously, but their minds are going to be elsewhere. Christmas, and for Jacob Chikrin, Hanukkah, he celebrates that. But yeah, the holiday season's coming up. Sometimes you see teams slow down. Sometimes you see teams really heat up. So it'll be really interesting to see how they bounce back from A, so many home games to start the year, and B, 4 games in 20 days. Or I think they play on the 20th day. So like you got a ton of rest. Guy Boucher, rest is a weapon. Let's see it in action.
You're trotting that out, eh? That's rest is a weapon. Wow.
Rest is a weapon. Yep.
Can we quickly talk about just how terrible the schedule is this year?
It's like the fact that there's no games tonight as we record this. We're recording on Tuesday for everybody listening. Like I get Thursday. That's fine. You don't want to interfere with football and Thanksgiving. There's nothing you can do to be the better league. You're never going to be. But there's so many days that just have no games, or 2 games followed by 14, followed by 3. Like it's terrible.
Yeah, isn't there going to be like 15 games almost tomorrow?
I think
ridiculous like that.
Tomorrow. Yeah,
that's like that's so dumb. I've never seen it this bad in all of my years of following hockey. Like, what's going on this year?
And
there
you know what?
Be these giant gaps that doesn't make for a well-balanced team, because then you got to start figuring out, okay, how are we going to do our rests? And you have to keep practicing during that time. So you almost like you're playing more games because there's so many gaps in between. I don't know. I think this is a schedule that's designed to hurt.
Yep. And I'll kind of segue this into our next topic, really, the international tournament. We're going to talk about that. But now the NHL is planning on adding a week break in February. I guess they already have it. So it doesn't really matter now that I say that out loud. But still, like, they're going to be teams overseas. It's going to be more than just a week of no games for them, because that's just not fair to expect them to go to Sweden, wherever they're going to play, and do 3 games that week and then fly back and just be ready for Monday, just like nothing happened. I expected it'll be longer than a week break. I don't know. But yeah, the schedule is disastrous this year, and it's painful for everybody.
Hey, just before we leave the schedule of the Senators, I like to track them, follow the math here. And by my calculation, to qualify for a wild card spot, and I'm assuming you need about 95 points to get there, we're going to have to play 590 hockey. Okay. That's a big step up. And to clinch a spot, they're going to have to play 664 if you believe that you probably have to have around 105 points to make it. So they're not out of the woods here.
So I just brought up the standings to kind of see who's playing around that. Right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs are 10-5-2 and at 650. So you're going to have to play about 10-5-2 hockey for the rest of the season. I know I did get a question last week about like, what does 500 hockey mean? So we're talking about points percentage, not necessarily wins and losses. So you get 2 points available every game. If you're going, so what's that? 22 points every 17 games, which is a lot. You're going to make the playoffs. That's pretty much what it is for Ottawa right now. You take any 17 game chunk out of the rest of the season for them, they should have 22 points. That's what you're saying, Paul. Just to clear that up for anybody listening.
Yep, that's exactly. So it's I see some of the comments on social media. Oh, you guys are blowing this out of proportion. It's only November, lots of time. Now, this week, there's not a lot of time ever. And
it's only November in Ottawa. Yeah. That goes really well together.
That's where the Senators have blown all of their playoff chances for the past 7 years, right in November.
Yeah.
So only November? What are you talking about? That's the most important time for Ottawa.
Yeah. You look at, I think each of the past 2 seasons from January on, they're a playoff team. But before that, not even close. Ridiculous.
The beef is in Ottawa, like they're good when it doesn't count.
Exactly.
It looks like it could be another good when it doesn't count year for them.
Yeah. Just bringing it back to the Global Series games.
Yes.
So it's almost like the Senators haven't been a high pressure team.
Yeah.
So they win when it doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
After January, they're fantastic. Before that, they are awful.
Yeah.
I think while there is a lot of concern that Senators fans can find from how the Senators won, I think there's also a little bit of a silver lining in that they clawed back and got those games and they won them. That's winning in high pressure situations. So maybe there is a sign of this is a better, more resilient team going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said before the Global Series started, let's see if we can end the rebuild right where it started. Obviously, Matt Duchene came over and Ottawa played Colorado in 2 games in Sweden. They did win both, but right after that, it was just they sucked. And that led to Brady Tkachuk, and that led to the entire rebuild. So let's see if this can turn things around, because you're absolutely right. They just showed they shouldn't have gotten themselves into the situation with Detroit, but they did win the game. And like we said, that's all that matters. The results are the only thing that matters. So yeah, like you look at what they did, and you can find a ton of successes amidst the blowing the lead and then a boring game. That's great. And two more points that I have to make before we move on. They played a really good game. Minnesota's really struggling, but they played a really boring game, which is something we have not seen Ottawa do in like 3 years. It's always been one team is just either having a huge comeback or one team is blowing them out of the water. We haven't seen just a boring shutdown hockey game. So that's one thing that I took away from Minnesota. And I just want to give a shout out to the Swedish Senators. You got Anton Forsberg passing it up the ice to Eric Brandstrom for the only regulation goal for Ottawa. Fantastic. Love to see it. It was like it was written in a book. And then you get those two as 2 of the stars, and then you throw Philip Gustafson in there. It was awesome. And that wasn't even like fabricated just for the story. That was awesome. I love to see that.
Yep, it's a real deal.
And I'll throw in that I loved watching William Nylander do really good over there too. Just saying. All right. So back to the international play. Reports this week. We're going to talk about this mostly because there's not much Ottawa Senators stuff going on. Again, 4 games, 20 days. It's a boring time for Senators fans. But let's talk about the international tournament that's coming up. Rumor has it that there's only going to be 4 teams: Canada, USA, Sweden, and Finland. You are leaving so many guys out of that. David Pastrnak, Leon Draisaitl, Tim Stützle, Roman Josi, Nico Hischier, all these guys. And you could go through and make a huge list of Russians as well. I'm leaving them off just because that's a whole different situation. Some people are saying that there might be a Team North America, Team Europe to get as many people involved. The NHL does not want that. Fans don't want that. They want best on best international tournament. They don't want these fabricated teams just so everybody gets a participation medal. I don't know what you do. Like, Germany's only got 7 guys in the NHL right now. I don't know how you do it. Not my job to figure it out, though. But you can't have a 4-team international tournament. That's not an international tournament. That's not the World Cup of hockey. And I know reports are saying from Greg Wyshynski that it's not going to be called the World Cup. But that's what people want. Either do that or go to the Olympics. Do something. Anybody have any thoughts on, like,
I got thoughts.
Yeah, I thought it was worth bringing up just to see where the conversation goes. I don't have like a question to pose you and prompt you on anything. It's just like, what is the NHL doing?
So they've been doing the World Cup every 4-ish years.
Yep.
Since I believe the mid 90s.
I think they started in the 80s.
Did it start?
I think it was 88 that they started. I don't know, something.
I remember, I think there was a 94 or 96 one. And that one was sort of lame. And then they canceled it for several years, and then they brought it back. And then they canceled that after like 2 iterations because nobody likes it. Like, people will say, oh yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Team North America, Team Europe, that was great. That was stupid. Yeah. That was the worst idea that the NHL could have put together. I think the World Cup of the NHL is, how do I put this? It's so transparently a money grab that it makes me sick. I think it is such a waste of time to put together all of your NHL players for like this faux tournament and leave off some of your best stars. Like, you're just doing an all-star game. That's all you're doing, and that's already poorly constructed in the NHL. So what do you think? How is the World Cup going to be any better? Every time they've put it together, to me, I think it's lame. I think it's just this, big, poorly executed thing that they keep trying, like making the All-Star game, fun, interesting, on the edge. Like, no, give us best on best, give us the most skilled, and the skills competition, don't make it gimmicky like all of these things are. Like, the World Cup is such a waste of time. I hate it.
I can understand people enjoying it. I can enjoy it going in the right direction if they're going to include everybody.
Make it a real World Cup.
Yeah, just make it every country that wants to send representatives. I don't care if Latvia wants to send. I think they have 4 NHL players right now. And that might even be including like Rudolf Balcers, who isn't really playing. If Latvia wants to send a team, let them. Like, you got to have the involvement from everybody that wants to be there. That's what makes it a World Cup.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just doing, hey, look at these 4 countries cup. That's all it is. Yeah. Because like, you look in the history. So I did just look it up. So it was the Canada Cup. That's what I was thinking of. Started in 76. And then it kind of switched over to the World Cup in 96. But like, you look at teams like Czech Republic, Slovakia, like, they need teams.
No, they deserve teams.
All these guys out. Like, and some of the best players in the league, Leon Draisaitl and David Pastrnak. You can't have a best on best tournament that does not involve those two.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
I think another major problem I have with the World Cup is that it so obviously does not do anything to grow the game.
Yeah.
The Olympics, say what you want about some of the teams that end up making it. Yeah. I remember Italy playing in an Olympic tournament of hockey. South Korea, China, they're not going to win. Everyone's aware they're not going to win. But what if they do?
Yeah.
That would be incredible. Seeing those smaller nations.
I'm going to interrupt you. Have you ever heard the movie Cool Runnings? The Jamaican bobsled team?
Of course.
Like,
I grew up in the 90s.
Things happen. Like, you just never know.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there to really prove your point.
Yeah. Yeah, like, having these smaller nations compete in a best-on-best tournament grows the game for those nations. All of a sudden, you're going to start seeing NHL players from those smaller nations. I don't know, like Slovenia. Can you name anyone from there? That's important.
Also,
yeah. Germany didn't really have a lot of stars, and then Leon Draisaitl breaks into the league. Now you've got Tim Stützle. Now you've got Lukas Reichel. Now you've got JJ Peterka. These are guys who are going to be great.
Yep.
And you've got so many more that are potentially coming up as well because you had this exposure. And that was so important. Now you have like this German block at the World Juniors every year.
Yeah.
You've got Germany, you've got Switzerland, you've got Austria every now and then. Like, that's great. Bring those guys in more.
Yeah.
That's how you grow the game. Okay, sure. Every now and then you get a 15-1 game.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Those are important. That helps you grow.
Yeah. And it helps grow the game of hockey. Like, it really does, because then the Austrian guy sitting at home that just happened to scroll across the channel and saw Latvia was playing hockey, then he's never watched a game of hockey. Oh, look at this Team Canada. Look at that Connor McDavid guy. He's really good. I'm going to go check out the Edmonton Oilers. Just look up a couple clips. Oh, my God. Look at the skill that he's got. I might tune into an NHL game.
or you end up discovering someone like Elvis Merzlikins,
Yeah.
who made his name at the Olympics when
Yep.
he almost stonewalled Canada.
Yep.
I think it was him. There was a couple of really talented Latvian goalies at that tournament who just took the world by storm. It's like, what? These guys? What are they doing? They ended up getting NHL jobs.
Yep. And it's awesome. They need to go to the Olympics. That's all they need to do. And I know that the biggest problem is insurance and, oh, the NHL doesn't get anything out of this. I don't care.
It's not for them.
It's not for them. It's for the players. Every single player in the National Hockey League wants to go to the Olympics. They want to represent their country. Give them the chance. Like, okay, I get it with the COVID. You didn't want to send them to Sochi.
That's different. Completely
different. And it came at a rough time because I do think that the NHL was going to go if it wasn't for the pandemic. I strongly believe that they were doing everything that they needed to do. And then all of a sudden the world ended. I get that. So they haven't had another chance to do so yet. 2026 is coming very quick. They need to be there.
Agreed.
Paul, I feel like this has been a lot of me and Dayton. You got anything you want to add here?
Well, I might push back on you guys.
Okay.
Hockey, let's face it, it's not a global game. Canadians, a tasteful smattering of Russians and Americans, we like it, but it's got no international standing. And even in the United States, most of that country would prefer 5-pin bowling to hockey if you looked at the TV ratings. So, and I'm speculating here. I don't know, and I think it's a fair question to ask the NHL. What are you trying to achieve with the format you're proposing? Because I agree with you, it's not an international tournament. It's not best on best. I don't see an upside from a business standpoint for the NHL to having this type of format. But maybe the calculation here is that we're going to put it on display in countries where the game has some potential to grow, and it might be a few countries in Northern Europe. I don't know. They had 2 games in Australia this year?
Yep. They had 2 preseason games in Australia.
Well, there you go. That's a head scratcher because I don't know why they think Australia would have any interest in hockey at all, but it doesn't seem to me.
I think Nathan Walker would disagree with you.
Yes. And I have an Australian son-in-law. I think I've just insulted him, but Walker, I think, and he's a hockey nut, my son-in-law, Dave, and a hockey player as well. I'll give him credit for that. Proud of him. But yeah, Nate, but Walker, I mean, he learned to play the game in Canada, right? It wasn't Australia. But, my point is, I haven't got a clue what they're trying to achieve with this format. But it doesn't, if you told me that, well, we're trying to grow the game globally and we're trying to make it into another soccer, the beautiful game, I don't think that's a realistic objective. I like the Olympics because you can get around the Russian problem. I think as it is now, you can't have the Russians playing in a NHL sponsored series, but the Olympic Committee, they're used to doing deals with the devil, and they'll find a way to deal with the Russians, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, the league is parochial. It's not, they don't think globally at all. They don't think much outside of Northern Europe and North America, and maybe that's as it should be, because, given the potential of the game to grow.
2 quick things.
Yep.
First, why can't it be a global game?
Right.
Other than the logistics of there's a lot of hot countries where ice doesn't really work. But also, there's ice in Arizona. That shouldn't work. It's still a team. Fans love them there.
Kind of. Kind of a team.
Hey, there's a lot of guys on Twitter who are super passionate about it, who are right there. chatted with a few of them who wrote for the Hockey Writers. They're really into it and really support the team. It's really cool to see. There's so many different countries that could support a team, but it has been a program, but it's been ignored because nobody cares. It's like, well, that's not where the fans are. Why can't it be? Why can't we have a German superpower in hockey? Why can't there be a British superpower of hockey, a French superpower of hockey? Like, there's so many European countries that could develop such a great program, but no one's taken the time to develop anything. Even Australia, like, there's guys who play there. Why not? Why can't there be a better development program there?
But to start, if I look at the NHL and the way they've grown the game, a buddy of mine, he was in Nashville when the Predators started, and what the Predators had to do was go out and sponsor minor league hockey and create the interest in it. And that's going to be difficult to do in most of the rest of the world outside of countries like Canada and the United States. There just aren't any facilities. I remember being in Tokyo one time, talking to a Japanese business partner. He was trying to impress me, telling me that Tokyo had 5 arenas in the city. Man, I could throw a brick and probably hit 3 of them from my front porch. We've just got that much more in the way of resources here. It leads me to wonder, can you really grow it outside of those traditional markets? And hey, maybe that's what the NHL is trying to do. Look, let's focus the marketing and the tournaments on countries where we've got a reasonable prospect of growing the game. But a German or a French powerhouse in hockey, I don't know. They're all into playing soccer or football.
Right. But you look at, and hockey's not trying to be the next soccer. If hockey could be anywhere close to like the MLS, that would be excellent, because the MLS is like the 16th highest ranked soccer league. Like, it's ridiculous. Yes, sure, Messi went over there to play, but who's to say that Connor Bedard doesn't decide that he wants to go play in the SHL for the rest of his career because he loves it in Sweden? Like, who knows? But you look at guys around the world. Have either of you two heard of the name Ito Iguchi?
Yes, I have.
So he, in the hockey world right now, he's not much of anything, but he was a 13, 14-year-old Japanese hockey phenom. He might even have been younger than that. He had so much skill. Pavel Barber, he's a kind of like a trick shot guy on YouTube. Ton of skill with him. He went over to Japan, did a video with him, and he's like, I'm like the only hockey player that is even relatively this good, but look how good I am. And he's incredible. I don't see a reason why the NHL or the hockey world in general can't appreciate that, build him up a little bit. Now, he was never making the NHL. He's 5'3". Like, it's ridiculous. He's 20 years old and he's 5'3", 130 pounds. He's not ever coming close to the NHL, but the NHL could bring him to the All-Star game. Why not?
Cool.
Like, just small stuff like that. Give the rest of the world the opportunity to see hockey. Could you imagine if Ito Iguchi shows up at the All-Star game this year? How many Japanese viewers do you think you're getting? A ton.
Totally.
You're not going to match your ratings or anything, but you're going to get a ton of viewers from over there. You might get a couple million that are just like, hey, look, this is like really, really cool that we got some Japanese hockey player coming over to show off his incredible talents. I think that if he had the size and he came to North America and played in the NCAA, he definitely would have been a first round pick. Like, if he had the size and all that stuff. What if? But like, the talent is there around the world, and the NHL needs to embrace the fact that there is hockey. It's almost like if they do something like the proposed World Cup, they're just kind of gatekeeping that hockey is ours in the North and nobody else can have it. That's the way I look at it. I think it's ridiculous.
No, I completely agree with you, Jacob. And the second point I was going to make is, if they're going to keep doing the World Cup, fine. It's no longer the World Cup. Call it the Canada Cup again. Like, we understand what a Canada Cup is. It's Canada versus 2 or 3 other teams. That's fine.
Yeah.
That at least paints a better picture of what they're doing. This is a Canada tournament.
I mean, the question I'd have, though, is in terms of selling the game, are you going to be able to fill arenas in Europe, even in the hockey hotbeds, 18,000 people charging them $100 or more for a ticket? I don't know that it's got that kind of potential. And that's what
but I don't think any ticket should be $100, even for NHL. That's stupid.
Yeah.
There's no need for that.
I'm paying one. Well, hey, I'm one of the stupid buyers because I'm paying that for to go and see the Leafs, the hated Leafs, play the Senators in December. So,
which should be a great game. Don't get me wrong, but it does feel like you mentioned, Jacob, there is this gatekeeping aspect to the NHL and their sport and North America, and when you compare that to the other, nations and how they can fill arenas, then it doesn't compare because it can't. But I was looking at going to, it was more of a pipe dream than anything. But when the World Juniors were in Sweden, like what does a Swedish league hockey game cost? It was like $20.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. That's approachable. You can go to a game for that. It's one reason I love going to junior games. I'll go to a junior game in every city that I'm in.
Yeah. Because
it's approachable and you're getting an incredible product. And I think that is how you start growing the game. You get that grassroots, you get the young kids interested.
Yeah.
And the NHL just hasn't really shown any sort of interest in doing that, which is really sad.
Yeah.
So do you think they're going to do do you think they'll do Team USA or Team North America versus Team Europe?
No, I don't think they do it. I think it's just a 14 league.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope not. That feels really tacky.
There's a marketing opportunity they may be missing there, though, man. I'll tell you, they could have newly elected President Donald Trump dropping the ceremonial puck.
You.
Hey, he'll sell out arenas.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and we will be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. I just want to remind everybody about the Ottawa Senators Substack here at the Hockey Writers. So we dedicated our very own Substack to the Ottawa Senators, and if you subscribe for free, you get all of the free articles sent directly to your inbox twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. Some great content there, so make sure to go check that out. But if you want to earn a paid subscription, you can either pay for it yourself or you can share a link, get some subscribers based off of your personalized link. You'll get lots of great content like pregame reports, mailbags, live game chats, ton of different stuff. So make sure to go check that out. There will be a link down in the description, and make sure you're getting the best content available to you. So let's talk some Sens now. We talked a lot about the World Cup and some Olympic stuff and some pretty heated conversations. They're really good stuff, though. Like, everybody has some great opinions, and I wish that we had 4 hours to talk about this. Maybe someday we'll just have a live stream and do some ranting just to kind of not really limit ourselves to anything, and have our producer Matthew sitting here behind the scenes just waiting for us to stop talking.
Yeah, have you ever seen that meme where it's like, could you talk half an hour if your life depended on it on one topic? Yes.
You can name
almost did it right now.
Yes. No, great stuff. Good conversation. And if you're listening, leave your thoughts down in the comments and tell us what you think of the World Cup and Olympics and what the NHL should do. Tell us where we went wrong. What don't you agree with? So let us know that. Going to move back to the Sens. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to move back to the Senators prospects. World Juniors is coming up pretty quick. Teams are going to start getting named. The Ottawa Senators don't have a lot in the bank right now. By my count, and by the look of Corey Pronman and somebody else, and I can't remember who, I apologize, but at The Athletic, they released their predictions for some World Junior teams, and I went through, and their list was the same as mine. They've got Dorian Donovan, who's lighting up the OHL. They've got Oscar Pettersson, who's doing good in Sweden. That's the end of the line. Somebody mentioned that Tomas Hamara might get a look at Czechia, but It doesn't look like it. He's not off to a great start in the OHL. There's not a lot cooking in the oven right now for Ottawa. So what do you make of this? Is Ottawa in a position right now to be selling any prospect? I will say they have a lot of prospects that are close to the NHL that are playing in the AHL that are not eligible. Like, it's not like that those are the only two prospects worth going to a World Juniors. There would be plenty if they were eligible. But right now, in terms of those eligible guys for the U20 tournament, Ottawa's only got two. Are they in a position right now to be selling picks and prospects? They just lost a first round pick for the Evgeny Dadonov situation. We've already given our rant on that. They probably going to punt that to 2026 and hope for some leeway and maybe, all right, well, you know what? That's okay. You forget about it. We forget about it. Everybody forgets about it. But yeah, that's what happened with the Devils. So there's a glimmer of hope for Ottawa, but I wouldn't bank on it. Is Ottawa in a position right now to be selling picks and prospects for assets that will help them today? Let's forget about the salary cap. Is Ottawa in a position to sell prospects and picks for Patrick Laine, let's say, or another rental like Chris Tanev? Can Ottawa do that right now? We'll start with you on this one, Paul.
Well, I just, you mentioned their prospects, Jorian Donovan, Oscar Peterson, and Tomas Hamera, if I've got the pronunciation right. I actually got the chance to go to an Ottawa 67s game, and lo and behold, guess who was in town? The Brantford Bulldogs. And playing on the Bulldogs is Donovan and Hamera. Donovan, I'll say this about him. Absolutely dominant out there. Really exciting defenseman to watch. So I wouldn't put him up for sale.
Not right now, especially with the Senators' connection with Sean Donovan.
Yeah, and then Camera. But as you point out, he hasn't been having a very good year. As a note, also playing for the Bulldogs is Florian Jackeye, the little brother of Arbor Jackeye, who's the big guy with Montreal. And apparently Florian, I didn't know this, but he's been drafted. He's property of the Montreal Canadiens as well. So they love their Albanians down there in Montreal. But, at a high-level answer to your question, Jacob, no, there's not enough there in their pipeline with which they could trade for a roster player. You've got enough there to combine a prospect or a pick with a roster player to get something meaningful back on the Ottawa roster. Yeah. But by themselves, no, I don't think they've got enough there to add in any meaningful way to the roster now.
Okay, Dayton.
Well, I do think you are missing out on two guys who could join Sweden. Kevin Riedler? I haven't actually looked up. Mm-hmm. So quite a talented goalie. He's played one game with the Swedish under-20 team so far this season. Didn't go great, but he's got that experience, and almost every player that joins a European World Junior team plays on that under-20 squad throughout the year, at least once. So they're looking at Riedler. They're trying to figure out if he would work. I think he's got a shot as like a third stringer. Also, Philip Nordberg, defenseman. He played 4 games with the junior team so far. Got an assist. He's a potential depth guy. So Senators could have 3 Swedes. Pettersson's a lock. He's been great for that team so far. And he played last year too, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember. Maybe he did.
I believe he's a returnee. One of the few Sweden has this year. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But
I will in just a second.
I'm willing to take my chances because I've been doing World Junior content since 2019 for Hockey Writers. Imagine if I'm wrong now. That's going to look terrible.
No credibility whatsoever.
2 goals, 2 assists in 7 games last year for Sweden at the U20 World Juniors.
Yeah,
there you go.
Hamera is also a returnee, so I would expect him to at least get a look. He hasn't looked great, but it's if you have a returnee player, you usually try to bring them back. It's rare to see someone play 1 year and then not come back for their 19 or 20-year-old season.
Yeah.
So there's that. Now, to answer your question, is there enough talent to start trading and building up a dangerous team? You betcha. I think you can start moving some of these guys, especially as these late picks start showing some real talent. So Jordan Donovan, I think he's one you might want to hang on to.
Yeah.
But who is he upsetting? Who's he taking the place of? Right now, nobody.
Yeah.
Chabot is locked up. Chychrun's locked up. Cleven's going to stay around for a while. Bernard Docker's going to stay around for a while.
Yeah.
Then you've got Maxence Gwinnett, I think. He's looking incredible. That's already 5 guys. So is Donovan going to get that one spot, or is he going to have to fight Lassie Thompson? And I've forgotten some other ones. But already, like Lassie Thompson, if he's still around, he's going to have to fight him for that spot. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
So if you have a guy showing that there's some skill, why not move him for some stuff? Because how long are you going to wait for these guys to develop and become a very strong team on their own?
Yeah.
I would say that you've waited 7 years.
Yeah.
I know not all of them have been there for that amount of time, but you've given this franchise a long rope to try and figure some stuff out. I would argue that we're getting pretty close to that. If there's not a product, I don't know, by the end of, let's say by the middle of next year, you start moving people. You start building a competitive veteran team, mostly veteran, around your core. And I think if you have anyone showing promise, you have to consider moving them for the young guys.
And that's the big thing. So you got Chabot and Sanderson locked up. Chychrun is going to be.
I miss Sanderson. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Chabot and Sanderson locked up. Chychrun will be eligible for an extension this summer. I expect that he's going to stick around. He's been very good in Ottawa. Not as good defensively as he was in Arizona, which is weird to say. But he's been an offensive dynamo. He's been fantastic.
I would say it's more of an Ottawa problem than a Chychrun problem.
I agree. And so he loves it in Ottawa. Everything that we've seen and heard from him, he absolutely loves it here. I think he really wants to be here. I could definitely see him signing an extension this summer. What else can you do? One of those guys automatically plays on the right side. The only thing that people are really suggesting right now is trading Thomas Chabot, which we don't have time to get into today. Or one of those guys is going to be a permanent right-handed defenseman. I really like what Tampa did when they had, who do they have? Hedman, Sergachev, and McDonough on the left side. That was a deadly 3-headed monster. I don't think Ottawa can do that. I don't think they're going to do that. I hope they do that. But I just, the writing's not on the wall for that. So I think that eventually one of them are going to have to go. It's not going to be Sanderson. You just traded a whole bunch for Chychrun. We can't get into Chabot today. Maybe we'll save that for next week. I don't think he'll be back by then, so that'll give us a little conversation for next week. But like you said, with Jordan Donovan, he's the best prospect in the system. I think you could argue it's Zach Ostapchuk, or depending on who you are, you could say Tyler Boucher. But that tweaked groin that'll hold him out of the first couple of days of training camp is still holding him out of the lineup here at American Thanksgiving.
If there's someone interested in him, trade him.
Yeah. I don't know what to do. I do like your mindset. We are ready to win. We are ready to come out of this rebuild. We need success. Let's do it at all costs. I don't know. And they have 2 first-round picks this year. They can stock the shelves a little bit. So we'll see how things go.
But what are those picks going to be? 23rd and 27th or something?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you still get like a Ridley Gregg from that, but chances are. Anyways, sorry to cut you off, Paul.
No, well, I mean, do you really believe that Ottawa could get a roster player in return for one of those prospects? Donovan.
If you're trading Jordan Donovan and a second round pick, you're absolutely getting a very solid roster player. I think that would get you Scott Laughton. I'm not on the Scott Laughton train, but that's just a name that's been thrown around Ottawa for quite a while now. But I think that Jordan Donovan and a second round pick gets you Scott Laughton at the trade deadline.
Or maybe Pierre-Olivier Joseph.
Yeah. Something like that. I mean, I wouldn't be willing to pay that much for P.O. Joseph, but...
Well, no, me neither, but...
Right. But yeah, like the assets are there. You're not going to get Chris Tanev with Jordan Donovan and a second round pick. You're not going to get Patrick Laine. You're not going to get any of these guys that are rumored to be on the block. Maybe Zadorov, honestly. And that's something that I would look at. You might need to throw another asset in there just to sweeten the pot a little bit. But that's around the value that I would see Zadorov going for. Obviously, a lot of teams are going to drive up the price. I would love to know what Brad Treliving is offering over there with Craig Conroy. But I don't know. I think Jordan Donovan and a second round pick gets you a lot.
Stay tuned.
Let's find it. We'll have and it all depends on how Ottawa does. This could just be a moot point. Ottawa might be, if they sell any assets this year, I'm going to be upset. But they might be selling. Last year, all they did was Patrick Brown. And Julian Gauthier. I believe those are the only two trade deadline moves they made.
Yeah, hard to call them assets though.
Right, like they just let them walk. Those were the only moves that they made. But you could throw in Chychrun too. I guess that was before the trade deadline, though.
Yeah, that trade felt like it happened a year before it did.
Right. Yeah.
Because it'd been rumored forever, and then it happened. Weird.
I didn't even believe it when it happened. I looked at it, and it was like Elliot Friedman tweeted it out, the verified account, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that.
Who hacked Elliot?
Elliot, what is your source? I don't trust you for once. No. But yeah, I don't have anything else I really want to add for tonight. Do either of you have anything?
Not unless you want to talk more about the World Cup.
I do, but for Matthew's sake.
We'll save him an editing headache.
Just let me ask. Let me take a quick temperature here. DJ Smith, traded or fired or not? How much longer? I mean, great success there in Sweden.
Remember when Brent Wallace? No, you don't, because you weren't here. Brent Wallace said the smartest thing that I've heard. No, I'm sorry. That was Simmer. You're not going to win in the playoffs with DJ Smith. I don't care if he takes you to first in the Atlantic. You're not winning a playoff round. You're not winning 2 playoff rounds with DJ Smith as the guy behind the bench. I will leave my thoughts there.
Dayton, what do you say?
Yeah. Simmer had some really good points. And then Brent Wallace had some really good points back. Was that episode 2 of our podcast here? Yeah. It's hard to get rid of a coach that the players really like, but if the results aren't there, then you have to. And I think the Senators are at the point where they need to see immediate results.
Yeah.
And Smith has not brought them. So I would not be surprised to see him gone in January or February.
Right. So they're over 500. They've won 4 of the last 5. You can't really argue they're not getting the results right now. That's one thing
that's fair.
I will say. And whether you think he should be behind the bench or not, the results right now, if he was to get fired today, the results can't be the reason why.
Yeah, I feel like I gave you kind of a wishy-washy answer there, Paul. Let me give you something a little bit more opinionated. Yeah, no, I think Smith is gone. He has to be. He doesn't bring that edge that the Senators need. Sure, the Senators are winning, but they should be winning more. The systems have been highly criticized lately, and I think for good reason. The systems aren't working, except when like they do, but they don't. So give that team a fresh start. There's a pretty good guy in Jay Woodcroft hanging around, give him a shot.
It's another conversation I could spend an hour on.
I'll take your temperature again, boys, and at game 20, 5 games from now.
5 games from now. Sounds good. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to check this out. Dayton, Paul, thank you very much for coming on again. Always appreciate both of the things, or all the things that both of you say.
Just both of the things.
Just both of the things. I only like 2 of the things you said.
Which 2 of them? Now I have to figure that out.
I can't tell you. So yeah, thanks for coming to check this out. Make sure to go check out the Substack down in the description. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, we will talk a lot about Shabbat, and we're going to bring back the over-under series. We kind of slowed down once the season started. There's been a lot to talk about, but we're going to bring that back. So leave any over-under lines for us down in the comment section. I hope you two get a chance to look at them and kind of do some research, and I hope there's some fun creative ones. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.